Hi everyone! If you are not sure how to build Donna, this guide will show you how to build and use her effectively. She works in 3 different teams, so I'll be covering each one separately. In this video, we focus on the Post Haste team, how to play it, the base potentials, emblems, and how much value her talents provide. The other teams will be covered in the next videos. So without further ado, let's get into it. Donna can be played as either main DPS or a sub DPS in the support slot. In the Post Haste team, she takes the role of the main DPS, similar to Nasuka in Ventus teams. As for the rest of the team, Teresa acts as your main support. She provides attack buff, damage taken debuff, and energy generation for the whole team, especially for Freesia. Meanwhile, Freesia acts as a sub DPS, but she can still deal significant amount of damage on her own. So, how do you play this team? At a casual level, this team is pretty simple. You can even leave it on auto and still get decent results. However, to play it properly, it comes down to maintaining the buff and debuff uptime with good timing. Starting with Teresa, you'll be using her skill to apply both attack buff and damage taken debuff from these two potentials. But instead of spamming her skill immediately, you should delay the second phase of her skill slightly. This is because the buff and debuff only last 6 seconds, while her skill cooldown is 8 seconds. By delaying it, you can maintain 100% uptime on both effects. Moving on to Donna, her gameplay is very straightforward. You just use her skill whenever it's available. The only thing to watch out for is not leaving gaps between her skills. Otherwise, you will lose the debuff from Frostbitten Arrow. Now for Freesia, most of her damage comes from using her skill during her ultimate state. Because of that, your goal is to use her skill twice during her ultimate. So if her ultimate is about to be ready, save her skill and then use it after ultimate starts. Outside of that window, you can just use her skill normally. That said, Freesia's damage can be optimized even further. However, based on the poll, I'm not sure if that is something you guys are interested in. And I don't want to turn this into Freesia guide instead of Donna guide. So if you want a deeper breakdown, let me know in the comment. Now if you don't have Freesia, your alternative is Iris. However, she performs quite a bit worse compared to Post Haste team. In ideal scenario, Iris can keep the team's damage close to Post Haste team, since her support for Donna can make up for Freesia's personal damage. But in actual gameplay, it's usually worse than that. The main issue is that Iris can't reliably buff Donna. You want Donna to stay inside Iris' ice field for the damage bonus. But what happens is, Donna often spawns outside of that, which means she doesn't get the buff. Because of that, her damage can drop significantly, and in worst case scenarios, it can go down to around this level. Unless you can position the boss near a wall and force Donna to spawn inside the field. So this team isn't very consistent. That said, Iris is still your best option if you don't have Freesia. Now let's go over the builds. For Teresa, your main goal is to keep her buffs from Cordiality and the debuff from Muddy and Guff active at all times. So to do that, you want to charge Strike for extra hits on her skill, and Magic Siphoning at level 1 to reduce her skill cooldown. For the second ping potential, go with Rip's Overturn. This helps generate energy for Freesia, since most of her damage comes from her ultimate state. You can also take Magic Sword Smack to help break the boss faster, although level 1 is enough here, as it already gives a strong boost, and anything more than that isn't really worth it. As for optional potentials, you don't really need them, but only take them if you want to fill potential slots or manipulate RNG during Ascension. And in case you are wondering about Guardian Blessing and restarting, they are listed as optional because they don't work exactly as described, and it is a lot harder to maintain their buffs and stacks. For Donna, You will want to use her build 1 for single target damage. Build 2 is more for arena, and I will share that separately. Your main priority here is arrow pursuit, so make sure to max it, because that is her strongest damage potential. It works very well with her unleashed arrow. Frostbitten arrow gives the whole team a strong acquired damage taken debuff, and when paired with arrow for reckoning, you can actually keep that debuff up all the time. For aquatic assault, it gives very high acquired damage even at 1 stack, and you can actually trigger them in single target. However, since it needs Frost Wave to activate, you will need level 1 of Shielding Onslaught. Also, I've put Aquatic Assault as medium priority because the damage it gives is similar to Team Y attack buff from Water Ripple. That said, if you are fighting bosses with summons, the value of Aquatic Assault increases significantly. For Freesia, her build is a bit more situational, and it depends on how many targets you can hit with her ultimate. If she only hitting 1 target, Ice Vortex won't be that great. In that case, you are better off focusing on raw damage from Penetrating Shield and Winter's Grip for the damage taken debuff. But if you can hit multiple targets, then Ice Vortex will provide an insane amount of damage boost and you need to max it. For the rest, you need at least level 1 of Blazing Fate to extend her ultimate. And Guardian's Heart at level 1 is also worth taking, since it gives your whole team 5% crit rate boost. Now if you don't have Freesia, your next best option is Iris, and you can follow this build here. However, the damage will be much lower and far from good in my opinion. That's because Donna and Iris don't work well together, mainly due to the issue we covered earlier in the previous section. For skill priority, starting with Teresa, you can skip all of her skills since none of them provide any support to the team. For Donna, you only need to upgrade her support skill, as it is her main source of damage. Her ultimate can also be skipped entirely as well, as it contributes very little compared to the damage from her skill. For Freesia, her support skill should be your main priority, since that is her main source of damage. Upgrading it also increases the hidden multiplier from localized snowfall, which adds even more value. Her basic attack is optional. It doesn't contribute much, but it is still fine to upgrade if you have extra resources. However, if you are not building damage on her at all, you can skip everything entirely. And for Iris, you can also skip all the skills as well. For Emblem, let's start with Donna, since she is the main DPS of this team. You want Rainbow Pen or Double Yellow Pen as usual. After that, prioritize support skill, since it increases her personal damage by around 16%. And if possible, try to get 20% skill damage on all 3 emblems for additional damage. 15% crit rate is also good, but its value is similar to 20% skill damage, although it's much harder to roll, so treat this one as a bonus if you happen to get it. Now for potential upgrade, which is the hardest thing to roll. Your best option is Arrow Pursuit, since it is her main source of damage. After that, go for Aquatic Assault, and then Frostbitten Arrow. That said, Aquatic Assault can be much stronger if you are hitting multiple targets, as mentioned earlier in the build section. Before going into Freesia emblems, just note that all the numbers here are based on single target. This is important because her scaling changes a lot depending on how many targets she can hit with her ultimate. The more targets she hits, the more stacks she gains on Ice Vortex. And as a result, at full stacks, both crit rate and Ice Vortex become extremely strong and can increase her damage far beyond the baseline. With that in mind, your best stat is Rainbow Crit Rate on level 70 and 80 emblems. Even in single target, crit rate is still a strong option, but its value increases a lot if you can stack Ice Vortex. After that, go for Rainbow Pen, and then if possible, try to get 20% skill damage or 12% acquired damage on all 3 emblems for additional damage. You also want support skill, which gives around 20% damage boost as well. Now for potential, take Winter's Grip for team-wide damage, and Penetrating Shield for her personal damage. As for Ice Vortex, if you can consistently build stacks, especially with multiple targets, it becomes your highest priority. That said, if you happen to roll Ice Vortex even at +1, I would strongly recommend keeping it. For Teresa, you don't really have to invest in the emblems, but if you have extra resources, you can pick up these 3 options as shown on the screen. Now let's take a look at these options. Aquadices are actually pretty limited right now, as we only have 7 in total. For the main slots, your top 3 options are Donna's Signature, Chitose's Signature, and C6 Cataclysm. But if your Cataclysm disc isn't C6, then C6 Donna Event disc becomes the better option. And if you don't have any limited discs, your best option would be C6 Cataclysm, C6 Donna Event disc, and Freesia Signature. For support slots, your options are even more limited. You are mainly looking at Freesia Signature, C6 Donna Event disc, and BP disc. And if you are free-to-play player, your best option is running 3 of Element C6 Event disc. For Donna's talents, there are both strengths and limitations. Starting with the downside, her T1 and T4 require mark activation. However, in this team, no one can actually trigger mark, so both of her talents provide little value here. However, if you run her in Chitose's team, those talents will work as intended, since mark can be triggered. Now for the good part, her overall talent scaling is very strong. Normally going from T0 to T5 gives around 40 to 50% damage increase, but for Donna, even without functional T1 and T4, the total gain is already almost 60%. And if those talents are active, the value here would be even higher. So if you are planning to pull for her dupes, it's better to stop at either T2 or go all the way to T5. Overall, Donna works best as a main DPS in support slot, where most of the team damage comes from her skill and maintaining the buff uptime. Her gameplay is straightforward, but getting good results depends on proper timing, especially for Teresa's buff and Freesia ultimate window. In terms of build, most of her damage comes from Arrow Pursuit, so prioritizing that along with proper emblem stats and support skill upgrades will give you the best results. While Freesia contributes a solid amount of damage, Donna still makes up the majority of team's output. However, Freesia helps push the team further, especially in multi-target scenarios. If you don't have Freesia, Iris is still usable, but the damage drops quite a bit and becomes less consistent. As for Donna herself, she is in a bit of a tough spot right now. She has the potential to be strong as Nasuka in Venta's team, but the main issue is that there aren't any characters that can fully support her yet. Because of that, her current performance is weaker compared to recent limit characters. That said, this will likely change in the future if new support are released. So, for now, she is a character with strong potential, but not at her peak yet. And that's it for this video. For those who are still hoping for Chitose to be safe, I'll be making a quick guide for that later. If you found this helpful, feel free to leave a like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.